Crossing time and space only for love. Misunderstanding. Harvest divine beasts to seize opportunities. It's useless. Step by step, cultivate immortality and ascend against the sky. Easy. A different kind of cultivation, a different kind of immortal path, a different kind of female lead brings a different kind of excitement. Strange numbers happen every year, but this year they will come to my house. QQ Book Friend Group. 511701499, keywords of the novel. Zombies do not cultivate immortality without pop-ups. Zombies do not cultivate immortality TXT complete collection download. Zombies do not cultivate immortality latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Eating You. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Eating You. She held an invisible spiritual blade and stared at the dazzling spatial passage, feeling somewhat stunned. Just now, a void shattered there, and the arrogant woman fell in. The black slit disappeared, and the woman also disappeared. Suddenly, it became tasteless. The night creek withdrew its sharp blade and looked down at the bumpy land, where similar creatures were exploding on both sides. It's really boring, without that woman's world, it's really boring. Night Creek's body flashed and plunged into a black crevice created by a similar explosion. I should be able to find that woman. That Sangyu realm is a land of absolute vastness, with countless abyss crisscrossing and disappearing for eternity. Suddenly, dark clouds gathered on all sides, swiftly covering the pressure with lightning. Bright lightning whips whipped the lifeless Jedi in the air. Different people from different directions and distances opened their eyes, their bodies flickered, and they appeared on the edge of the Jedi, all tightly furrowing their brows. The dramatic changes in heaven and earth clearly indicate the birth of treasures. And this treasure has a considerable origin, because as top-level figures in cultivation, they were so suppressed by the power of the heavenly thunder that they dared not step forward. Is it Xianbao? A dozen or so people exchanged glances in the air, ready to snatch, but their faces were calm and indifferent. Whoever caught them was their own, as the rule has always been. Although everyone wants to take it, no one moves forward. One is that he doesn't want to be the target of public criticism, and the other is that this place is extremely strange. There is no spiritual energy in the air, and no one has ever seen any plant or animal on that scar-like land. No one who cultivates immortals is willing to step into the heavens. Even if they have vast spiritual reserves themselves, they are unwilling to waste them, because soon a great war will break out. In an unknown depth underground, there is a round stone chamber, which is not large. Inside, there is a white giant egg and a flower. Compared to the giant egg that seemed to turn into stone, the flower was so dazzling and dazzling. The small flower plant is only 2 palms tall, without leaves, with only 10 petals growing directly together in the void. It has no roots or stems. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, white, black, and gray. Each of the 10 colors is intense and clear to the extreme, and the most beautiful pigments in the world cannot be blended. Amidst the petals, there was a small fruit that couldn't distinguish its color, occasionally shining brightly. When thunder echoed from above, this beautiful and strange flower underwent a transformation. The 10 petals trembled gently, and the plump and round shape gradually became thinner and smaller. In contrast, the small fruit grew larger and brighter. As the flowers changed, the giant egg next to them also began to change. The table-sized white egg shook and shook again, and the eggshell suddenly emitted a faint light. Wait until the 10 petals are completely absorbed by the fruit, and the eggshell over there becomes brighter and thinner. Click wipe, a subtle crack appeared, emitting a gentle yet undeniable light inside. The fruit, which had become the size of an egg, slowly rose upwards. When a person was at a high distance, the giant egg moved and aimed directly below the fruit. Scratch, 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 there were several more cracks, and the giant egg suddenly dared not move. If someone were there, they would surely see that the mysterious creature inside the egg did not want a shell. The fruit flies upwards at a uniform speed, and the giant egg also rises at the same speed. The distance between the two is always kept at a delicate distance, enough for a mysterious creature that doesn't want a shell to reach out and swallow the fruit into its stomach. The lightning that could not be seen from outside had connected into a bright storm, and the fruit and egg were still deep underground. Sharp lightning had already jumped into it without waiting. On the edge of the land of heaven and earth, the experts who couldn't even lift their eyelids in the face of mountain collapses and earth fissures all stared wide, causing thunder to fall before they were born. This is such a treasure that can't even hold on to heaven and earth. If I get it, can I glimpse the path of ascension? For a moment, everyone's eyes and hearts were hot, but no one took a step forward because the dense lightning had already turned the sky into a sieve. Quickly, the sieve was indescribable. At this moment, lightning was no longer being thrown one by one, but rather one by one. The experts were stunned. How could it be that Tianlei was angry and angry, throwing a splash? The big cracks in the valley from top to bottom are not straight up and down. All the lightning strikes, without exception, hit the hard rock wall. After all, lightning is curved, but it cannot turn on its own. Wrapped in a layer of mist, the giant egg, which was striving to maintain its eggshell integrity, was still safely flying upwards, with a calm and confident energy that contrasted sharply with the raging thunder. The small handful of lightning turned into a large bundle, and then into a bundle. The bright and blinding light made countless experts who had seen the world squint. It was really blinding. Given this situation, is it necessary to fill the sky and earth with lightning? This must destroy that unborn treasure. I couldn't help but hesitate. In front of the power of heaven and earth, how confident am I that I can get it? No one noticed that a larger lightning ball quickly passed through layers of lightning and fell into the crack, fiercely hitting the bottom of the ditch with a free fall pattern. Every time it collides with the cliff, a layer of electric light is worn off. When it collides, the electric light weakens by a layer. After countless impacts, the electric light disappears completely. However, the unidentified object in the middle burns at high speed, and the blue and red flames burn and burn. When there is nothing to burn inside, it gradually turns into a few small flames. The small flame has also extinguished, and the shape of the black ball can be clearly seen. It's a skeleton. Free fall with a beautiful posture facing the ground, at a height of over 100,000 meters, I don't know what kind of ghostly appearance it will smash into. The fruit and giant egg located directly below suddenly became confused, and disaster descended from heaven. Isn't it? The skeleton falls straight down, with the head and feet on top. After all, it's the skeleton. The skull is heavy, but the face, if it can still be called a face, is also lifted up. The fruit is being sucked into the mouth without lips or teeth. Giant egg shakes. That belongs to me, spit it out. It was also not spared, and its skeleton was fiercely smashed on its head with an unstoppable force. Pap, click, 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 bang, the skeleton fell to the ground, miraculously not breaking and still maintaining its intact appearance. But the white eggshell didn't have that much luck. The heavenly maiden scattered flowers everywhere on the ground, losing the cover of the eggshell, and finally seeing what mysterious creature was inside. A long and soft object fell onto the ground of the stone chamber, its small head pounding all kinds of meat and vegetables. It couldn't be lifted up for a moment, and its two small eyes rolled towards the direction of the skeleton, shooting out a deep-seated hatred. Wait for me to recover and see if I'll eat you. It could feel the carefully guarded fruit entering the skull's mouth and beginning to dissipate. Thinking about the characteristics of this fruit, tears in the eyes, the baby's heart is bitter, and no one says anything about it. Heavenly Way. It's you who's causing trouble. Tiandao looked bewildered and said, it was definitely an accident. The lightning in the sky all stopped in unison, including those thrown into mid-air, all in a eerie silence for 3 seconds. In the next moment, they became irritable. If they were a shrew just now, they would be crazy now. Countless lightning bolts rushed down, no longer talking about the beauty of rhythm. A dozen or so experts swallowed their saliva. Hee, the sky is hard to see in front of us. Why don't we all discuss together? Immediately responding, in the blink of an eye, more than 10 people teleported to one place and even shifted their steps towards the middle. God is crazy, so scared. The fruit disappeared from the hole in the mouth, and the charred bone frame seemed to emit fluorescence, gradually turning white and giving birth to a layer of flesh film. The flesh film wrapped around the skeleton and quickly expanded, growing into a figure of suitable size, fat and thin. The red color turned lighter, slowly giving birth to hair, and finally condensed into a woman with black hair over her waist. The woman lay on the ground and moved, propped up her arms and slowly sat up. White bones bring forth flesh, from death to rebirth. The long creatures also struggled to get up, their small eyes filled with deep-seated hatred and raging anger. The slender tail flicked and shot an arrow at the woman who had not yet fully opened her eyes. I'm going to eat you. Eating her is equivalent to eating fruit, and the effect should not be bad, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Uncontrollable viruses. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Uncontrollable viruses. The Night Creek couldn't regain its senses for a moment, and it was really painful to shuttle through the time and space barrier. Why did we learn about the human space migration when all the zombies went crazy and even tried to explode their cores to stop it? Because the zombie virus cannot pass through the space channel, no zombie can follow. Originally, zombies were transformed from humans, loved and killed for so many years, indistinguishable and inseparable from yin and yang fish. Okay, if humans want to leave their zombies and run away, the anger of being abandoned and betrayed will naturally go crazy. They must not leave, live together, and die together. Even these zombie kings who had already regained their rational thinking intervened to stop them. Night Creek's archenemy, Huayun, fell into a black hole crack caused by a similar explosion. She could see clearly that before Huayun fell in, she was bitten by a zombie king and must have been infected with the zombie virus. The virus of the zombie king does not have an incubation period and can occur immediately. Huayun's fate is either to become a zombie or to be strangled by a black hole that rejects zombie viruses, but Yeshi still hopes for another ending for her. As a former academic achiever and a zombie king settling down in the library, Yeshi knows that there are scientists who support the theory that the universe is composed of multiple planes, each with millions of different worlds. Perhaps Huayun won't die. The battle between humans and zombies was already boring for her. As soon as her old opponent disappeared, her zombie life became even more boring. Without hesitation, Night Creek crawled into a crack, hoping to reunite with her old opponent in a different world. Academic elites also read online novels. As soon as they entered the black hole, Yeshi felt like they were about to be attacked. Sure enough, the zombie virus inside seemed to be controlled by an invisible force, as if it was being compressed into nothingness by cosmic forces, or as if it was being pulled and about to explode. That pain devoured her brain, and what's even more terrifying is that her hands and feet are melting. Despite being mentally prepared to end the zombie form, how could Yeshi be obediently controlled? Subconsciously, the zombie virus on the palm of only half of the melted hand will be retrieved. The zombie king, more than 30 years after the end of the world, is able to freely control the virus in his body, except that it cannot be completely eliminated, and can freely transfer within his body. Sure enough, half of the palm without the virus stopped the trend of ablation. Almost 0.01 seconds later, the zombie virus spread throughout the body, including those on the nail covers and hair strands, and the entire turtle retreated into the crystal nucleus in the head of the Night Creek. Yeshi was stunned. The virus has become a sperm. I didn't have the thought of it myself. Is this going to cause my head to explode and die? What she was thinking was whether she could push all the viruses in the crystal nucleus to her hands and feet, sacrificing her hands and feet for a life. But later on, feeling uncomfortable in his head, as a zombie king in the spiritual realm, Yeshi immediately mobilized his powerful spiritual power to focus on the crystal nucleus and quickly covered his head with a shield. With a burst, it was 300 layers, but with a burst of cosmic power, it was 300 layers lower. Yeshi devoted all his energy to protecting the crystal nucleus of his life root, but he didn't notice that his body was squeezed, folded, and twisted like a rag. Add a shield, add a shield. The only thing in Night Creek's mind is this, and I don't know when, as soon as his body loosened, he fell freely. In that moment, the endless power of the universe suddenly disappeared, and Yeshi was stunned before realizing it. The remaining spiritual power immediately spread throughout his body, first correcting and restoring the crushed bones. That's pitiful. You don't have to look in the mirror. Yeshi knows he's just a skeleton pulled out of blood. She had no intention of stopping her free fall state. As long as she regained some strength, she could safely escape even if she was in a state of danger. After repairing the skeleton, Yeshi urged the crystal nucleus to absorb the energy around the body and restore spiritual power. Before she realized something was wrong with the world, she fell into a lightning-fast swimming pool with a loud crash, her eyes open and her eyes closed. Night Creek is so naive, thunderous, good thing, she can also absorb some supplementary energy. Is this lightning-fast swimming pool too deep? Why haven't we seen the bottom in half a day? The bewildered Night Creek wrapped itself in lightning balls and smashed onto the ground. When it fell into the abyss and was knocked away by the stone wall, the lightning ignited due to high-speed friction, causing it to fail to extinguish the fire. Anyway, it couldn't kill her, but it protected her brain and skeleton with restored mental strength. As long as the brain is not dry, the crystal nucleus is still there, and the full-flesh resurrection is not a matter of minutes. The fact that her face was facing the ground was not very beautiful. She could even feel the howling wind in her eyes, nose, mouth, and mouth. Yeshi simply withdrew her consciousness to the crystal nucleus and waited for the ground to say more. So, she really didn't understand that she swallowed the fruit and smashed an egg in one gulp. At this moment, it fell to the ground and the flesh grew out. Yeshi sat up feeling a slight concussion, still coming to his senses, and heard something moaning. A gust of light wind rushed towards him. Thanks to her old rival, she is not as sensitive to air flow as ordinary zombie kings. Schwa raised his hand and 2 fingers gripped the head of a mysterious creature. What kind of thing? Mutant snakes. Less than 2 chopsticks long, with a body as thick as a little finger, and 2 eyes like small mung beans that are clearly emotional, this has opened up the mind and mutated. Why is it so small? Yeshi shook his fingers and frowned, I don't even have enough food to fill my teeth. Suddenly, the little snake's slippery body slipped out, and its head was lifted and buttoned. A few fine teeth bit into Yeshi's wrist. Yeshi got angry and swung his arm. With a bang, the little thing clenched its teeth and smashed a piece of Yeshi's flesh onto the smooth stone wall. It's probably quite painful, the little thing has closed its eyes. Yeshi lifted his wrist, and indeed the bitten wrist was already smooth and traceless. For some reason, in this dimly lit area, Yeshi felt something was wrong and didn't think about it for a moment. Get up and take a look at yourself, close your eyes and feel a bit. Just stay naked. After all, within a radius of 10 miles, you're just one person, and the only one gasping for breath is the one on the ground. That's right, the zombie king gasps for breath whenever he wants, and gasps for breath if he doesn't want to. It's just so capricious. Night Creek looked up at the pitch-black crack stretching over his head, and his spiritual energy released a thread that couldn't reach his head. However, a faint rumbling sound came through the mountain wall. Did she wear it into the thunder pit? The Night Creek regained its futile spiritual thread, feeling somewhat powerless. Should it fly or climb up such a deep place? How to think and how to have nothing to love. Oh, I can't count myself as born long ago, but it's even more terrifying. Who knows how long the zombie king can exist? Anyway, the more she advances, the farther she seems to be from completely disappearing. Damn human, I'm going to eat you. The snake-shaped object regrouped and charged forward again, with Xiaoya particles facing the throat of Yeshi. When the night creek is startled, can it speak? Has this seemingly inconspicuous mutated beast turned into a spirit? Oh, this is still the first one, unfortunately, it's a bit small and not enough to fill the gaps between the teeth. Feeling nauseous in my heart, my movements were not slow. I grabbed the snake-like object with my 2 fingers again, turned it around a few times, and with a flick and a clatter, the poor little thing stuck to the stone wall again. Ha! Not dead yet. Yishi looked at the struggling little thing and became interested. I don't know how big the crystal nucleus is, whether it's enough to have a meal. Dead woman, I'm not finished with you. The little one raised his head and roared angrily. The small eyes met the big eyes, and in an instant, they suddenly realized something was wrong while looking at each other. Snake-shaped object. No, it's clear that when this woman spoke before, he couldn't understand her chattering. But now, it's clear that she's still babbling, and I inexplicably understand her language. What's going on? Yeshi. No, it's obvious that I heard this thing before and it's just a beast. Why did you suddenly speak human language? No, it's not human language, it's just that she understood his animal language. Oh my, Yeshi patted her forehead and slid down a handful of green silk. Thinking that this little thing had just bitten her and even taken a piece of meat, shouldn't it have eaten it? Hee, really? Every zombie king's virus is unique. People, zombies, or any living creatures that can withstand it will become loyal followers of that zombie king under the control of the virus. When she was growing flesh, the virus spread throughout her body. Did she get hit? Although I don't appreciate such a small thing, it's also good to make it quiet and quiet. Obviously, the snake-shaped creature also thought of this and its small eyes widened as it quickly fell out. What did you give me to eat? What did you give me to eat? Screaming and rushing towards Yeshi, he didn't bite anyone this time, but stopped in front of Yeshi's face, panting heavily as if about to go berserk. What did you eat? It's a good thing. Yeshi chuckled, wanting to give it some color to see through the zombie king virus on the other person's body. Let it roll in a ball to show respect to its owner. Ha! No, Yeshi was surprised that she couldn't control it. A new article has been released, featuring a cold and violent female lead who protects her short hair and slaps her face. Let's save it for now and then read it. End of this chapter. 3, Chapter 3 Viewing Light. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Viewing Light. Close your eyes and feel it carefully, that's right. Although her mental strength has not fully recovered, she did not suffer any loss when sending out the message to control the little thing. It's not that her mental strength is too weak, but that if it doesn't work, she can't control it. This is the first time I have encountered such a strange situation. Yeshi's face darkened, and she quickly scanned the little thing. She was even more surprised that her spiritual power could not enter its body at all. What kind of weird thing is this? When she was busy exploring the little things were also busy checking their bodies, and it was easy to feel that foreign objects had entered her body, and that foreign object had a faint tendency to spread throughout her body. From the inheritance brought by the divine soul, the little thing couldn't find something that matched it, but he keenly felt that he couldn't let this thing fill his whole body, otherwise the consequences would be unbearable. The little thing operated the inheritance secret method, but was still unable to force out that clump of things. In great shock and panic, he did not know what technique he had used, forcing all foreign objects into his right eye. He quickly sealed it, and the golden light in his right eye flashed back to its original state. It was sealed, but it was only sealed. It still can't force that thing out. What is this? What is this? What have you done to me? The little thing roared at the tip of the nose of the Night Creek. Who are you? Which one has been passed down? Night Creek frowns, inheriting. Does the Zombie King also have a legacy? Okay, if there is inheritance, I am also the first Zombie King to create inheritance. I'm not human, said calmly, she. Stop joking, the little one sneered and became angry. My eyes can break through all hypocrisy, explore all origins, let me take a good look. You, a cunning and malicious person. Are you not a living person? The little one obviously has the ability to see through things, and his eyes make a precise appearance of shock. But you are not a dead person either. Night Creek shrugged, isn't it? It's either a living or a dead person, or a zombie. Little things have vision. The little thing looked at Yeshi's body and then at her head, but couldn't see clearly. Can't you see clearly? The heart of the Night Creek moved, and I couldn't see through it, but it seemed like I couldn't see myself either. No, 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 the little thing circled around the head of the Night Creek. 9 turns still give birth to grass, but it's a divine grass. It's the easiest to live a dead person with flesh and white bones. It can cross the cycle of life and death, trace back to time, and even if you're lost, it can bring you back. How could it not have turned you back into a human? Judging from your body structure, it's human. Strange, it just gave you flesh. Yishi grabbed its tail, coiled it a few times, and nodded his little head, saying, what kind of divine grass? What kind of grass is still alive? My ability to grow meat is my own, it's not about the grass in your mouth. The little thing rolled its eyes and said, who believes it? With a smile, Yeshi's fingertips suddenly grew long, sharp nails, and with a swish, he cut off half of his arm. Here, keep an eye on it. The little thing opened its eyes wide, half of the wound granulation wriggled, and in the blink of an eye, it was a completely new arm. The medicine has not yet passed. The Night Creek was speechless and cut a wound. He placed the severed arm on top of it, and in the little thing's astonishment, the severed arm was sucked in as if it had melted, without leaving any scars. Is this also a medicinal effect? The little thing froze, didn't it? I haven't heard that Shinchao can make you eat your own food. Alright, you understand. I can grow my own bones, skin, and flesh. Don't force me to claim that I've eaten something good from you. Humph, I don't accept, hitting porcelain. The little thing opened its mouth several times and said, do you want to pay me back? It's clear that my 9-turn divine grass was eaten by you. You ate it. Yishi sneered, splashing dirty water, right? I even said you ate my crystal nucleus. You, the little thing blushed with anger. Okay, do you want to admit it? I have evidence. With a slightly pointed tail, something resembling a film of water suddenly appeared in front of me. A picture suddenly appeared on it, with a pitch-black skeleton descending from the sky, face down, and mouth wide open. All skull heads have big mouths, right? Then a beautiful fruit was taken down by the mouth of the skull, and the skeleton slammed fiercely onto the giant egg below. The eggshell shattered and burst, and the little thing inside fell to the ground. Fortunately, I am born with this kind of backtracking spell, otherwise I would have been held accountable by you. Yeshi felt a bit awkward, as a king, she really didn't blame her. But where did that fruit go? Why didn't you feel it yourself? Wait a minute. Yishi closed his eyes and felt his mind. He was surprised to find that his mind was still the same, but his crystal nucleus was missing. No, it's not that it's gone, but rather a white liquid surrounded the original location of the crystal nucleus. The liquid is viscous and almost semi-solid, and inside it is a breath that she doesn't really like, as if angry. That surging vitality really makes her uncomfortable. Night Creek is very certain that there is nothing wrong with his whole body except for the abnormality here. Is this liquid the fruit? Open your eyes and say, I found it, I'll give it back to you. The little thing immediately sprouted its eyes, give it back to me, give it back to me. After closing his eyes for a while, Yeshi opened his eyes awkwardly and helplessly, it won't come out. It seems like this eerie liquid has a bit of a match for its own crystal nucleus. I'm clinging to you, you're holding on to me, and nobody's letting go. Anyway, Yeshi can't force the liquid out of his mind. It seems like we are really going to owe money. Night Creek glanced up vaguely, otherwise, let's default. Hurry up and run, this little thing must not be able to run away from you. No way. The little thing screamed, I can't live without it. Give it back to me. Give it back to me. Yeshi looked up again and suddenly wanted to jump, but in an instant, the little thing wrapped around her smooth arm and disappeared. It's gone. Yeshi was taken aback and quickly explored, only to find that this little thing was coiled in his arm. It's amazing, even though I've infiltrated a physical entity, there hasn't been any change at all. And I haven't felt any discomfort yet. Yeshi shook his arm and there was nothing unusual. What variety is this? Can you still be possessed? The little thing stretched out its slippery head and hissed, do you want to run? No way. You don't know, do you? The strange thing in your flesh has made me closely connected to you. No matter where you run, I can find you in one go. You can't run away. Night Creek. So this strange little thing, even though it has been infected with its own virus, cannot be controlled by itself and instead becomes a tracker that can no longer get rid of it. With a sigh, Yeshi wanted to sit cross-legged, but she was completely naked. Even though she was no longer human, she couldn't meet so sincerely. Glancing around for a week, I found several large eggshells to wrap myself around and let out a sigh. But the fruit you want, I can't take it out. It's not that I refuse to take it, it won't come out on its own. I don't believe it. Do you believe it or not? You. I want to see it with my own eyes. Yeshi sneered, saying that this little thing is strange and still wants to enter his own spiritual sea. No way. You're lying. The two of them became deadlocked. Night Creek said coldly, okay, if you let me inside you to see, I'll let you inside me to see. She just casually said it, but to her surprise, the little thing was stunned for a moment and nodded in agreement. Yeshi was stunned for a moment and said helplessly, I can't enter. The little thing rolled its inconspicuous eyes and said, without my permission, of course you can't enter. Alright, it's ready now. Yeshi hesitated and said, are you sure? This was too unguarded, and he was too embarrassed to take action. The little thing raised its head, proud and coquettish. Okay, Yeshi gazed into his two little eyes, his spiritual energy silently falling on the little thing. The little thing trembled, inexplicably embarrassed, and was completely exposed by others. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. You look at me, I look at you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. You look at me, I look at you. I have surveyed my slender body, and although I have never seen such a structure, it is not particularly unusual. Yeshi looked at Xiaotu again, and suddenly his mental strength shook and he was bounced out. Stare at small things. Do you still need to see the sea? Understanding the sea. Spiritual sea. Nonsense, aren't you looking at me? What kind of fruit is in my head? Can you show it? Okay, then come on. Don't pop me out again. The Night Creek smoothly entered the sea of consciousness of the little thing, and in an instant, she was lost. It was the first time she had seen such a spiritual sea, as if standing in space, in darkness, with occasional starlight flashing by, quiet and profound, endless. Strolling in any direction, I counted in my heart until I reached 100. Although I was moving, I didn't seem to have left my place. After a moment of contemplation, Yeshi stepped back and stared at the little thing in a daze. Where is Jinghe? What kind of variety is this? Alright, it's my turn, the little thing impatiently jumped. Oh, then come on, it's best to bring that fruit out. It's turned into a ball of white water in my spiritual sea. Yeshi decided to take an adventure. The little thing nodded, and Yeshi felt an invisible energy falling towards his head, as if it was spiritual power, but it seemed not. The little thing jumped and said, "Let me in." Yeshi chuckled and wanted to authorize it myself. The little thing only felt like it was on a sea of steaming light gray clouds, with endless mist rolling and bewildered. Where did it go to find it? Head up. The night creek guides it. The little thing looked up and saw a transparent palace above the sea of clouds, extremely exquisite and complex. With a flick of its tail, it flew up. I found an entrance, and as soon as I entered, I realized something was wrong. Suddenly, things changed in front, back, left, and right. The road is not a road, and the wall is not a wall. And from outside, the transparent walls also become colorful. It got lost. Follow me. Suddenly transformed into a small humanoid figure, only the size of a little finger, with a snow-white body and blurred facial features, flapping a pair of beautiful wings. The little person flew ahead, while the little thing closely followed behind. What is this? You're Yuan-ing. The little person turned around and said, "What is a Yuan-ing?" Little thing. Yes, you're not human, you won't have a baby. Night Creek is silent, she can laugh and say that she is not human, but hearing others say so about her, she still can't help feeling a little melancholy. She used to be the same, but it wasn't her choice to become like this. But it's also good, no matter what happens, I will live well. This is a mountain. This is the sea, this is the forest, the desert. What are these rows of things? I haven't seen them before. Ah, this big bird is really strange. It can't fly in the sky and doesn't change its posture. Why does it still smoke? What is this? Is it a house? Can it still roll? Yishi asked, "Don't you know airplanes and cars?" What is that? So, this is probably not the usual world anymore. The transparent palace was built by Yeshi with pure spiritual power to protect the crystal core. This palace can withstand mental attacks from the outside world, and even in critical moments, it will self-destruct and destroy its crystal nucleus. Even if she dies completely, she does not want her crystal nucleus to become the energy of others. In those lonely days, when Yeshi occasionally missed his hometown, he unconsciously drew the image of his hometown in his mind, and was pleasantly surprised to find that he had left those images on the walls of the palace. From then on, it was uncontrollable, and all the beautiful scenery she had seen before the mutation was carefully remembered and engraved in the palace. That is a nostalgia for the past, and also a kind of meaningless comfort. Arriving at the center of the palace is an immensely vast hall. It's here. The little thing saw the floating ball in the middle at a glance, bursting out with vitality. That's it. Take it away. The little thing flew over and opened its mouth to bite. Crunch. Bite empty. Don't believe this evil, take a few more bites, but still won't be able to bite. It saw clearly that whenever he was about to bite, there was an invisible barrier blocking it, and it seemed like the divine grass had sent it out by itself. The little man flew up to it and said, "Is there a way to get rid of it?" He reached out and patted it. It's the same, the invisible barrier separates her hands. Little thing understood, what Yeshi said about it not coming out was not to coax it. What is this thing here? Yeshi didn't speak. Little things look at little people's eyes, I can't see it myself. I squinted my eyes and vaguely felt a transparent gemstone like crystal inside. Are you not human? The little man rolled his eyes. Are you a demon or a demon? Is a transparent crystal a demon core or a demon core? No, judging from her origin, she is clearly a human without any trace of demon or demon bloodline. Is it the emergence of new varieties? You just said, is there a way to get it out? The little thing flew around several times and could only shake its head. I can't even eat. Yi-Shi remained silent and said. Then come out. A thought popped up the little thing's divine sense. Sigh. Sigh. One wanted but couldn't get it, and the other wanted to push but couldn't refuse. For a moment, two non-human beings froze in the small stone chamber. Suddenly, the little thing shook its body and looked up in surprise. After a while, it moved and crawled away from the night creek bit by bit. As it climbed, it looked up and climbed out 3 feet away. When it moved, it froze and quickly retreated. Climb out again and quickly retract again. The little thing tilted its head and thought for a while, then turned its head to look at the still daydreaming night creek. The tip of its tail adjusted and leaned out, immediately retracting and then retracting again and again. After so many times, it finally confirmed something. Its eyes widened several times, and it couldn't be trusted to look at the still daydreaming night creek. After a long time, the little thing that had returned to normal crawled back and sank into the arms of Yi-Shi, sticking its head out. You swallowed my fruit and want to compensate me. Yi-Shi said, it's it that doesn't leave on its own. But if you don't eat it, how could it run into your sea of consciousness? It wasn't me who took the initiative, I didn't even notice at that time. Anyway, if it weren't for your sudden appearance, it wouldn't have been eaten. Do you admit this? Night Creek looked at it steadily, feeling inexplicably guilty. Okay, what do you say, how can we compensate? Forget it, don't bully the cubs, let's listen first. I can't rely on God grass to leave this rundown place and go home. Now that you've ruined a good thing, you want to take me home and support me during that time. It doesn't seem excessive to listen. However, a fruit takes you home. Has it become a sperm? What do you know? The little thing said dejectedly, the 9 transformations to the life grass is a thing in the divine realm. This cultivation world cannot retain it. Originally, I could have teamed up with it to break through this barrier and return to the original world. Hey, are you listening? Night Creek with a wooden face, in the realm of gods and immortals, breaking through some kind of barrier and returning to the original world. Where the hell did she fall into? Think about it and ask, do you know about zombies? Zombies. The little one asked curiously, are they puppets made from corpses? Ah, are they zombies? Zombies and zombies are not the same system. So, did you fall into another big system of heaven and earth? Cultivate Immortality. A novel. You keep talking. What else are you saying? You ate that fruit and I couldn't go home on my own, so you took me home. Yi-Shi said, I'm going to break down the space barrier. You think I'm interstellar scientist? The space channels opened with all human effort, one after another self-exploding like women falling into the cracks of black holes. Yi-Shi shook his head and said, I don't have that ability. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Is together like this. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 is together like this. The little thing, however, remained calm and said, I know. I don't think you're from this place, so I'm not sure about this matter. There will always be a way to leave, but I'll have to go outside and see the situation before we can talk. So what? So go wherever I go, take care of me. Night Creek is speechless. Is this treating oneself as a nanny or a slave? Since that's the case. Night Creek's eyes sparkled brightly. Okay. The little thing was overjoyed, but the next moment, it was pulled by the Night Creek and thrown far away. Although I didn't mean to, I still owe you something. In the future, you can follow me and I can take care of you, but I don't like others to get too close. Remember, don't get within 1 meter of me, it's just 3 feet. The little thing paused for a moment, looked up at the sky, and angrily said, you already know, don't you? Yi-Shi sneered, pointing to his head and also to his own ears. When only you are shrewd yourself, from the moment you came to talk to me, the thunder that was originally only thrown at this area became chaotic. It was clearly losing its purpose to throw it around from here as the center. Do you think I didn't notice it? You were 3 feet away from me, and those thunder came back. Unless you entered within 3 feet, they scattered again. Hee, little thing, you clearly wanted me to protect you. You lied a lot and even wanted to persuade me. Hee, who do you think I am? Humph, I don't know if I'm alive or dead. After speaking, Yeshi stood up, his eyes slightly closed, and suddenly slowly flew up. She wants to run. The little thing quickly pounced and said, I'm not lying, it's just something I didn't tell you. I'm not interested, Yeshi tugged at his slender tail. I don't owe you anything. Oh, by the way, what if I owe you something? I'm also a king, and only others have ever obeyed me. The little thing shouted, without me, you just wait for your sea of consciousness to explode and die. Humph, I believe you. Don't believe it. Although I don't know what the crystal in the sea is, I can feel the power of death it contains. What about the divine grass? Living bones and dead people can bring back their souls, representing the power of life. Once you die, 2 completely opposite forces entangle together, and each contains a huge amount of power. How do you think they will always be safe and sound? But now, no one can do anything about it. Once one side is weak, it is a good time for the other to devour, but completely opposite forces cannot be merged, only return to the same path. The Night Creek has come to a stop, and this way of death is a bit unremarkable. Moreover, just now she was thinking of experiencing the cultivation world. Is it possible for Huayun to survive in such a world? Do you have a way? The little thing nodded repeatedly and said, of course there is. He added, but I have to wait until I grow up and my bloodline is passed down layer by layer before I can be unblocked. You're not lying to me, are you? Are you still inheriting your bloodline? Why don't you say it's breaking the document password? The little thing said, I don't believe you can't feel it. I ate your meat, and the layer of connection we established between us. Can't I deceive you? Can't you feel it? Speaking of this, Yeshi's mind is complex. How could she not feel it? I don't know if my zombie king virus has been induced to change by time and space. Even though it was a small thing that got infected with my virus, the 2 of them now exist like family members, with a subtle restraint that prevents me from harming it. Similarly, it cannot harm me. What a kind of kinship in blood. A ghost. Do you really have a way? I swear, yes, I am a member of the dragon clan. The divine dragon looked like this, and he was also drunk. As I grow up day by day, the power in my bloodline will gradually awaken, and the memories in my inheritance will also awaken. My intuition tells me that your situation is not a big problem in our dragon clan. The little thing patted its chest with its tail and said. Night Creek chuckled, when will you awaken? Eating too much leads to quick awakening. Forget it, having a companion alone is also quite good. This little thing seems to have no ulterior motives, and there is a virus restraining it. It's also good to have a talking companion on the road. Isn't it just 3 meals a day? At this time, Yishi didn't even know that the 3 meals that the divine dragon ate were particular. Then. You come with me. Wait a minute. The little thing was delighted and asked Yeshi to follow it along in the stone chamber. Next, Yeshi followed the divine dragon silently within 3 feet, watching his small and compact figure, and ate the eggshells all over the ground with a click, leaving only a few pieces for Yeshi to block his body. Yeshi took the opportunity to regain his mental strength. After the little thing was finished, he let it sit on his arm and condensed its spiritual strength into invisible wings, flying upwards. The little thing hiccuped and said, how can you fly? Yeshi smiled, not all spirit-type zombies can fly. If it weren't for her mortal enemies relying on wind-type abilities to fly into the sky, she wouldn't have had the thought to figure out how to use spiritual power to fly. Flying is possible, but it doesn't last long. After flying for less than a quarter of an hour, Yeshi stopped and sat on a stone platform half the size of his buttocks, with his fingernails popping out and inserting into the stone wall. My name is Night Creek, the night of the night, the stream of the stream. What is your name? The little thing froze for a moment, squinted its eyes, as if recalling a distant memory. Don't go back. Don't go back, me. My name is Wugue. What? Turtle. Aren't you a divine dragon? Yeshi laughed heartily. The little thing turned pale and said in a low voice, our family is all named by our parents. I just broke out of my shell today, and I don't even know what my parents look like. I vaguely remember a long time ago when I heard the voices of men and women inside the eggshell, calling me not to return, not to return. Don't go home. Yeshi frowned and spoke loudly, don't come back. Your parents don't want you to go home. So you still want to go back. Can you find such a place to hide it, with the divine grass next to it? The little thing should not have been abandoned. That is. His parents are in danger, so dangerous that they dare not let their son appear. Yeshi's mood was a bit complicated, and the poor little thing felt like he had caught up in trouble. I know my parents must be in danger, how can I not go back? Well, your courage is commendable. How confident are you in helping your parents? Our divine dragon clan is different from the human clan. It is passed down in our bloodline. As long as I can grow up, I can become stronger and stronger. If a little thing had limbs, he would definitely hold a small fist and wave it. Looking at those cute little eyes, it's not easy to hit the Night Creek. It's good for young people to have a goal. Let's go. Yeshi pulled out his nails and thought to himself, how long have you been here? Wugue lay on the shoulder of the Night Creek and said, the divine grass and I came together. At that time, it should still be a small seedling. 9 turns of the divine grass, 1 turn for 10,000 years. Yeshi's body stiffened and he said, 90,000 years. That egg doesn't stink. It's not 90,000 years, it's 100,000 years. After the 9 transformations, it will take another 10,000 years for the divine grass to mature. The little thing said quietly, for 100,000 years, only it accompanied me, but you took a bite. Yeshi is a bit embarrassed, okay, I owe a big debt. If it's just 1 year at a time, 100,000 years, can this zombie king hold on? Alas, having a goal for young people is a good thing. Just like this, flying non-stop, not eating or drinking, day and night non-stop, it took me countless days to fly out of the sinkhole. Roughly estimated, the Night Creek may take about 2 months. Such a deep distance is indeed not Earth. Since Wugue followed by Yeshi's side, Tianlei was furious and searched for several days without any results, but had to disperse. The experts waited for a few more days, and seeing nothing unusual, they had to shake their heads and sigh before leaving. Night Creek's gaze swept over the surface of the earth, unable to help but smack its tongue. The ground was covered in black stones and potholes. What kind of conflict have you had with this god? This is about to strike you to the point of losing your soul. Wugue shook his little tail and looked around curiously. Upon hearing the words, he said, I am a divine dragon and should be in the divine realm. This is only the cultivation realm, and I cannot be let go. My existence is a threat to this place, and the heavenly Tao wants to destroy me. I see. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Role of Divine Grass. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The Role of Divine Grass. Yeshi was puzzled again and said, I heard what you meant. Did your parents leave the divine grass? Just to make you leave here? But didn't they refuse to let you go back? Wu Gui stiffened and said with a gloomy expression, yes. I am a divine dragon, and the spiritual energy in the cultivation world is not enough for me to cultivate well. Therefore, my parents left the divine grass to allow me to enter the upper world. As for going home, our divine dragon clan has formed its own world, and it cannot be easily found. Yeshi suddenly felt bad and said, so, do you want me to take you home? You don't even know where your home is. Wu Gui hurriedly said, when I grow up, I will naturally feel the space where my parents are in the divine dragon realm. When I grow up, I can tear through the space barrier and go home on my own. Can small things still tear through space barriers? Yeshi's heart twitched. It's not bad. If you can't find Huayan here, you can borrow the little thing's hand to find another place to continue searching. But, this cultivation world can't even support you. How can I support you? Sure enough, she was betrayed. Little thing Wu Xiaodao said, go to the upper realm. As long as you reach your cultivation level and ascend through tribulations, I will follow you. The spiritual energy of the immortal realm is enough for me to use. It's not difficult at all. The Night Creek was half believing and half doubting, choosing a direction to leave without knowing the size of the pit ahead waiting for him. This journey lasted another 2 or 3 months, making Yeshi feel the vastness of the world in this world. Finally stepping out of the Jedi, the two of them looked at the endless black rocks behind them, deeply moved by themselves. Plants began to appear around the area, and the Night Creek wrapped its clothes with large leaves. The eggshells were quickly eaten by Wu Gui. I climbed several more mountains and finally saw a crowd. With a sweep of his spiritual power, Yishi saw that the people in the village were all dressed in ancient costumes, and the houses were mainly thatched houses and mud embryo houses. He chose a young girl carrying a large wooden basin filled with clothes and heading towards the riverbank. Yishi took a detour and arrived at the riverbank first. Jumping down the river, the Night Creek tugged at the leaves and clothes on her body and threw them in the middle of the river. A pile of leaves drifted away along the river before she swam towards the place where the girl was washing clothes at the bottom of the water. She could see clearly that there was a deep pool with half a large stone next to the shallow beach where laundry was being done. Coincidentally, there was only a young girl by the river at that time. The Night Creek emerged from behind the stone and looked at the young girl. She looked gentle and honest, and should be able to succeed. She immediately coughed twice. The laundry girl was startled and looked around to see a woman waving at her with her head exposed behind a stone. You, who are you? Night Creek was stunned, she couldn't understand. She asked, who are you? Wu Gui, who was hiding in Yishi's arm, opened his mouth and chuckled, you can talk to me because of the presence of that thing in your flesh. We have established a spiritual connection. In fact, you still can't understand the language here. Yeshi hummed, it's just learning a foreign language, don't be too simple. You can act as a translator for me first. Wu Gui said helplessly, what she said, I can transfer it to you, but what you said, I can't say it to her. I can't appear now, she's just an ordinary person. You don't want her to be scared away by me, do you? It's really useless. Yeshi pointed to his mouth, shook his hand, and waved to the girl, gesturing for her to go over. The girl hesitated, got up, wiped her hands, and walked over. After walking around the big stone, I was startled and immediately covered my mouth with my hand, afraid to make a sound. What a beautiful girl, she seems to be naked. The Night Creek only exposed its shoulders, pointing to itself and also to the center of the river. Smiled at the girl, pointed to her body, and then pointed to her wooden basin. Ah, you mean, you came to take a shower and your clothes were washed away by the water. Yeshi nodded quickly, clasped his hands together, and made a begging gesture. The girl looked at her snow-white shoulders and blushed inexplicably. She thought to herself, wait, I'll go get your clothes. After speaking, run away quickly. Night Creek stay, isn't there something in the basin? I'm not particular about it. The girl thought to herself, what a beautiful girl, like an elf in the water, her best outfit doesn't even match her. Alas, it's a pity that such a good girl is actually mute. Night Creek saw her running away and lowered her eyes to look at the reflection on the water surface. Just feel like something's not right. This face has undergone a minor facelift, with the same facial features and contours, but it feels like it has been fine-tuned, becoming flawless and flawless. Originally, Yeshi was a beauty, but now she has become a great beauty. It is estimated that this is the effect of divine grace. Lifting his arm, Yeshi pinched the soft flesh of his arm, feeling a bit distressed. As a zombie king in his 20s, he is still a delicate spiritual type. The appearance of Night Creek has long been no different from that of humans, except that his face has turned a bit pale, and he really can't see anything else. The skin and bones of a zombie, tempered harder than steel, can be used as shells to smash mutated birds. But now, soft and smooth, this is the feeling of youthful and tender skin shining at the age of 16 or 17. This feeling is too annoying. Which zombie is not taking a tough line? Fortunately, softness may be soft, but the level of toughness and firmness remains unchanged. On the Night Creek Road, she tried using wooden sticks, stones, and wild dogs. Her skin was still so indestructible, but it was just a slight bounce. Touch your face again, look at your fingers, and touch your chest. Shunchao is Shunchao. Her originally pale skin has turned pink, and even her heart is beating at the rhythm of a normal person. Of course, this is only limited to this. There is only a thin layer of blood in the blood vessels, and she cuts the wound herself without any bleeding. Yishi thought to himself that this divine herb is only a beauty and hairdressing effect for himself. It must be unwilling to make himself alive, so that he must make his heart beat and chat. She doesn't even need blood supply, isn't a beating heart too much? Wu Goe said, so, do you know how angry the god grass is? It can't completely turn you into a living person or destroy you. Hurt a blade of grass's self-esteem, blame me. Night Creek's troublesome grasp of hair is also frustrating. She has long hair that reaches her waist, even if she doesn't defecate, she needs to tease her. The previous second cut off, and the next second grew back, black and smooth. Wu Goe said, the divine grass automatically maintains your body in a perfect state. It gives you as much as you cut. How many girls dream of having such flowing long hair? Hee Night Creek, elegant. Disgusting. Daring to be grateful, this divine grass has nothing else to do except for this trivial matter. Spiritual energy saw the girl run home, rummaging through boxes and cabinets, cherishing a carefully folded set of clothes, and carrying them towards the river. The night stream was slightly pondering and sinking into the water. When the girl ran back and saw many big fish piled up by the river, she reluctantly swung her tail. Night Creek refers to fish, and also to young girls. The girl was startled. Such a big fish can only be found in the deepest water grass in the middle of the river. Even the young and middle-aged people in their village dare not go so deep. Just a suit of clothes, it's not worth anything. Yeshi took his clothes, groped and put them on, came out from behind the stone, smiled, and helped the girl put the fish into the big basin. Surprisingly, it can't fit. The girl blushed and said, these fish are enough to buy 10 sets of good clothes. I'll take them to the restaurant to sell and give you the money. Yeshi smiled and pointed to the distance, indicating that he was about to leave. Seeing that the girl couldn't take it at once, she gestured for her to take it separately, and she stood guard here. The girl had to take a pot back first, thinking of calling her family to come together. The Night Creek was bored waiting, and then used its spiritual power to control a group of big fish to jump up. The girl came with her family, and everyone was surprised when they saw the graceful Night Creek dressed in coarse cloth clothes. They didn't dare to disturb her, so they all lowered their heads and bent down to pick up the big fish, afraid to speak out loud. Night Creek heard someone muttering, isn't this a legendary immortal? Yeshi smiled at the young girl and drifted away. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. First Meeting, Pooh. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 First Meeting, Pooh. Oh, this must be a rumored fairy. Can an average person get so many big fish? Niz is lucky to have met Xianyuan. The girl's face turned red, and she will remember such a beautiful girl clearly in her lifetime. With clothes on, Yeshi can walk on the road in a big and square way. As she walked, she pondered where to get information about this world, feeling a sense in her heart and lifting her head. I saw a person flying down from the sky, a woman standing on a sword, flying down from the sky. Yeshi couldn't help but be surprised. It's really the cultivation world, standing on the sword and flying. The woman in front of her was wearing a large white dress, with a light veil fluttering and ribbons curling up in a fairy-like manner. Beautiful in appearance, with a cold and aloof temperament. The condensed eyebrows and eyes seemed to repel people thousands of miles away, but the slightly upturned lips seemed to carry the warmth of spring. This is a very attractive girl. If she were a few years older, she might be even more charming. The surprise of Yeshi fell into the woman's eyes, slightly disappointed. She was really just an ordinary person. Water really can't help but lightly press on the chest. A few days ago, she felt a sense in her heart, looking in this direction day and night full of longing. At this moment, Master Bo, who was skilled in divination, left the stage and asked her to come here immediately, saying that there was a great opportunity waiting for her. She immediately came forward, and as the flying sword passed through the sky, I lowered my head and saw a young girl walking on the mountain road. Somehow, she had a thought that came to mind. I thought it was her chance, but this is clearly just an ordinary person. Looking back and forth, even sweeping the body of the Night Creek with spiritual awareness, Shui was truly disappointed. He was just a mortal. Night Creek naturally felt the other party's rudeness, and as she was swept away with similar mental power, she instinctively wanted to fight back, but she stopped in time. I still don't know the way of this world, so it's not advisable to act rashly for now. Besides, is her body so easy to see through? Subconsciously, Yeshi felt that he couldn't even see through his own body without returning, let alone others. Moreover, her spiritual shield was seamless, and it was only when someone noticed something unusual that she had seen a ghost. Sure enough, the girl in front of me didn't see anything. Water is really puzzling. What attracted me to come down? To be cautious, she gave a gentle smile and asked, "Would you like to come with me?" Upon hearing Wugue's narration, Yeshi was greatly surprised. What kind of world is this? If you don't say a word when you meet, you'll have to take someone away. Both of them are still women. Lily has already become so popular. But next, Shuai-Zhen really spoke up, but it made Yeshi want to pinch her to death. Although you are just an ordinary person, with my understanding, it is still easy for you to enter the inner door and follow me as a maid. Shuai-Zhen smiled faintly and said, "As long as you serve me wholeheartedly, I can find a way to extend your life by 50 years. You know, this is something that ordinary people cannot even think of. Moreover, I guarantee that the things you eat are the best in the mortal world. I want to thank you, right?" The zombie king was so angry that he had a big face. Yeshi had been looking surprised from the moment he met her, and her eyes were even more wide and round. Shuai-Zhen thought she was pleasantly surprised and couldn't believe that a pie fell from the sky and hit her head. I guess so. When did I talk to mortals, let alone be so kind, gentle, and courteous? The maids around me are basically the three spiritual roots, and they are fairies in the eyes of mortals. Look, this mortal is so excited that he can't speak when he sees a fairy and has such a great way to climb to the sky. Do you still have relatives in this mortal world? Do you want to go and say goodbye? Night Creek cursed in his heart, saying, "Have you ever said a word from beginning to end, rushing to buy and sell like this?" The dignity of the king made Yeshi disdain the entanglement with such an unclear head. He gave her a cold glance and walked past her. Shui Zhenjin frowned. Has this mortal's head broken? I was only about to speak when I was unhappy when I suddenly saw her stop. Yeshi turned his head to the direction of Shuazhen, indifferent and seemingly aloof. The towering king gently extended his neck and exhaled like a orchid. Pooh! I thought to myself, this kind of mood particle should be common, right? Then, he walked away as if there was no one around, and left. She was actually scolded. She was really scared. Shuazhen tightly clenched his fist, so that he could not stop her. Looking at the back of Yi Shi Shiran, I thought to myself, this may be a mortal with some status in the mortal world, and I don't even know about the kind of cultivation that exists. Humph, being short-sighted, I have a heart to give her a fairy fate, but I don't know how to cherish it. It is she who is blind. Surprisingly, I was scolded. Shuazhen suppressed his anger and stepped onto the flying sword, leaving. In just a few decades, that ordinary person will turn into a pile of lusts, and any one of them will be in seclusion for several years or more. Ordinary people are nothing but ants and mayflies to themselves. Why should I be angry with ants and mayflies? Master said, guard against arrogance and impatience, and your path to heaven is ahead. Wu Gui emerged from the palm of Yi Shi's hand, like a naturally growing piece of soft tissue. Is that woman sick? If she comes up, she will be enslaved. Yeshi was still angry. That's because you don't know the big difference between mortals and cultivators, Wu Gui said. I seem to have some memories, as if mortals were slaves to cultivators and had to sharpen their heads and break them. Is it so exaggerated? It seems so. Anyway, you've come too. Maybe you'll be able to see it with your own eyes in the future. It seems like you've seen it before. Wu Guiquan crawled out and bounced on her arm, eager to try. I haven't seen it before, I want to see it. Aren't we exactly together? Yi Shi smiled and lowered his head, seeing Wu Gui staring at the direction where the lunatic had left, as if in a daze. What? You want to follow that woman? I'll take you there. No. Wu Guimeng shook his head and wrinkled his small eyes. I just think she's strange, and I can't say where it's strange. Come on, talk more carefully. Yi Shi became interested and said, are you from your tribe? How could it be? My people can't be here, that woman is just an ordinary human. Wu Gui couldn't help but wonder, I just feel that woman gives me a strange feeling, like she's very close, but also feels very disgusted. It's really strange. Intimacy. What kind of intimacy method? Disliking is easy to understand. If you are not of our race, your heart will always be different. Yi Shixin said, now she and Wu Gui belong to the same tribe, and neither of them is human. It seems like getting close to her is very comfortable, but Wu Gui couldn't accurately describe her feelings. I really want to get close to her, and my heart is saying it's not possible. That's it. I don't understand, but if you encounter it again in the future, feel it again. Wu Gui shook his tail, and now the disgust in his heart seemed to have increased. What do you want to eat? There's a town ahead with a restaurant. Although I don't have any money, it's not a problem for you to have a good meal. Night Creek remembered Wu Gui's abnormal reaction to that mental illness in his heart and began to fulfill his responsibility. Dear, it's time to eat. Wu Gui looked up and said innocently, I don't eat the food of mortals. I like to eat the demon core of monsters. Monsters. Demon core. What the hell? Is it the crystal nucleus of a mutated beast? Where can I find the monster? Well, as a newly hatched one, it's only natural that you don't know. Yi Shi sighed and said, can you tell me how to find it? Wu Gui sniffed around and said with a little tail, over there, the spiritual energy is gradually increasing. Where there is more spiritual energy, there must be more monsters. Okay, then let's go. Monsters with demon cores should be similar to mutated beasts, right? Yeshi licked her lips and said, it's also good for her to have a meal. In the morning, the document couldn't be opened and I thought I was poisoned. I quickly unplugged the internet and went to get some sleep. While sleeping, fortunately, the computer is fine. The new article needs to be signed, so everyone can rest assured to skip the trap. End of this chapter. 8. Did the induction in Chapter 8 go wrong? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Is the induction wrong? At this point, the water had really flown over the village, flying and flying all the way to the boundary of the heavenly absolute land. This was her first time coming, and looking at the vast black rock land, the feeling that made her anxious and eager suddenly disappeared without a trace. Did it fly over? Shuaizhen murmured, finally taking a glance at Tianjue land, stepped on the flying sword and turned back on the original path. Fly slowly while carefully feeling the feelings in your heart. No, still no. Until, water really falls outside the village, looking at the festive lights and decorations inside the village. After listening for a while, she realized that two ordinary people were getting married. She was not interested, but carefully sensed and slowly came to the riverbank, standing at the place where women wash their clothes. Hearing someone coming, Shuaizhen's mind moved and he took a photo of his invisibility talisman. It was an old woman pulling a girl and hurriedly heading towards the water. When she arrived at the water's edge, the old woman asked the girl to kneel down, and she also knelt down, clasping her hands together and bowing, reciting words. The water goddess has appeared, allowing my daughter to also touch your fairy spirit. I beg the water goddess to bless my daughter in marrying a good family. The girl who helped Yeshi that day should have been lucky. Yeshi thanked her and brought out many big fish. When using spiritual force to force the big fish to jump out of the water, it also drove a big river clam out of the bottom of the river. Yeshi naturally wouldn't pay attention to these things and walked straight away. His family said the clam was not valuable, so they had to leave it there, but the girl thought it was brought back by Yeshi. Stubbornly, he took it back and the next day found a large bead inside the clam, which was worth a lot of money. The villagers all say that girls have good luck. They exchange their old clothes for many big fish, and even exchange their own dowry. The son of the wealthiest family in the village had already fallen in love with her, and through this, quickly arranged for the family to propose and get engaged, quickly settling the matter. Today is the day of marriage, and the woman is envious. She doesn't even bother to eat at the banquet, so she brings her daughter to worship the river god. In just a few days, the story had already been passed down to a divine state. Shuaizhen only heard of the water god empress here, who liked the kind-hearted girl Yun, but did not expect to be carried by Yi Shi. As soon as the mother and daughter left, Shuaizhen stared at the water surface thoughtfully. Suddenly, the spirit beast bag in his waist moved, and Shuaizhen's face lit up with joy as he jumped into the water. Soon, Shuaizhen came out of the water, holding a blue and plump stone in his hand. This is a precious refining material. If it is integrated into his own treasure, it can make his ice magic more powerful. Shuaizhen really put away the stone and thought, is this the chance for him to come here this time? This material is very rare, can it be called a great opportunity that Master Bo calculated for himself in seclusion? Shuaizhen closed his eyes and felt it for a long time. The inexplicable feeling had already disappeared, and he had no choice but to step onto the flying sword and leave. With no return, Yi Shi walked steadily when encountering people along the way, and used to fly when there were no people around. After a few days, he finally arrived at a forest. Wu Gui said, "There are monsters here." As we approached the forest, Yeshi could occasionally see the sword-wielding man passing over his head, sighing inwardly. It was indeed much more convenient than a plane, but the sword was not as wide as the sole of his shoe. Standing on top of it, he flew past with a swoosh, feeling his face flustered by the strong wind. No return, no words tell her that there is a spiritual shield. Yeshi became even more interested in cultivation. If he could fly with his sword, he would have to walk so hard. Asking Wu Gui how to cultivate immortality, Wu Gui looked confused. He knew how to do it in an eggshell. How to teach this? Night Creek fiercely despises the bloodline inheritance and bullies people. Living in the forest for several days, Yeshi diligently grasps small monsters and feeds them to the divine dragon lord every day, which is not difficult, just, for example, now. Yeshi sat under a big tree, his face numb. With one hand leaning on his knee to support his head, and the other hand raised flat forward, his fingers parted open, and his long nails bulging out with a cold glow. The grass leaves moved slightly, and a few rabbits ran out of nowhere, lost in their small eyes, rushing towards the Night Creek like the wind. Pooh 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 pooh, with a soft five-tone sound, he automatically inserted his head into the nails of the Night Creek. His plump body squeezed, and as he was about to die, his little eyes were still confused, not understanding what was going on. Sigh. Without picking it off, Yeshi straightened up and with the other hand, his little finger dug out a long nail. With a gentle dig, a demon core was lifted out of the rabbit's head, and his thumb and index finger pinched and swung again. Wu Gui lay on the shoulder of the Night Creek, half dead and half alive, opening his mouth. A half-peanut-sized demon core happened to fall in, and as soon as his mouth closed, the demon core disappeared without a trace. So he fed 4 more, and Night Creek looked at this monster rabbit that grew up with speed. He reluctantly cut a hole and took turns sucking a few drops of blood while it was hot before throwing it out. She has great strength and can easily throw a few hundred meters away with just one throw. Her mental strength saw several wolf-shaped monsters appear and took the rabbit away, not daring to look over here. In just a few days, Yeshi left an unbearable psychological trauma on the monsters in the forest. Ah, I'm tired of eating. Ah, I'm tired of drinking. Both sighed at the same time, feeling that the world was not very beautiful anymore. Wu Gui jumped onto her lap and said seriously, "Let's go find the high-level monster." He only knew he could eat the demon core, but he didn't know beforehand that the first and second level demons were useless for him, so he just had a smack smell. Yeshi is also tired and crooked. As a zombie king, she has not eaten any flesh or blood for many years, and has been proclaimed king for many years. Unexpectedly, she has fallen back to the level of a low-level zombie drinking blood. With a nod on Wu Gui's head, he chuckled, "Where are we going to find it? The higher the spiritual energy, the higher the level of the monster." Yeshi chuckled, "How do we get there?" "Walking. Don't even think about it." Now she doesn't know how big the world really is, but she probably knows it's bigger than she imagined. Occasionally, I hear a few words and phrases. They fly on their swords for 10 days and a half before they reach where they are. Can she handle it? She estimated the speed at which the sword flew over her head, as it could rival her for at least 10 days in a day. At this moment, the Night Creek couldn't help but lament, why didn't it awaken its wind power? Wu Gui said seriously, "You need to cultivate yourself." Yeshi snorted, "You teach me." No return, I really don't know how to guide a human race's cultivation as a divine dragon. This kind of conversation has been staged several times, each time ending in a silence of no return. However, this time Wu Gui continued. "I heard that those human races need to enter the sect to worship their masters in order to cultivate immortality. Otherwise, would you also go find a sect to worship their masters?" Night Creek rubbed his nails and silently thought, as if there was also a way out, even if he didn't learn anything else, he could only learn to step on the sword and fly. "Where can I go to pay respects to my master?" Big eyes stare small eyes. Yeshi Nu said, "What do you really know?" Wu Gui said, "Is it my fault? Can I, as a divine dragon in the upper realm, know clearly about things in the lower realm? It's vulgar." Yeshi sneered, you've been here for 100,000 years. I've been inside the shell. For 100,000 years, I haven't even grown an arm or leg. Wu Gui was even more angry and said, isn't this to save energy? Can you give me some advanced crystal nuclei to show you in the blink of an eye? Yi Shi chuckled angrily and said, it's my fault that you can't grow arms and legs. I didn't show up for that 100,000 years, and it didn't delay your development. I'm going to swallow the divine grass, and all the hair is growing out. Okay, didn't you just accidentally get fed a blade of grass? I owe this little thing that I can't even turn over. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Thunder Cannot Strike. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Thunder cannot strike. Seeing him squint his eyes and pout with a look of grievance, and thinking about his background, Yeshi couldn't help but pity him. I just started to feel sorry for myself and cursed at myself. I don't know if my virus has a brain twitch or if it mutates. I am such an easily softened zombie. Alright, I'll find you the advanced demon core. In the past few days, I have been catching monster beasts. At first, Night Creek was still physically active. Although it was a capable monster that could set fire, spit water, and run quickly, its level was low. Compared to the Zombie King whose body automatically upgraded endlessly, it could not even be considered a dish. She had thick skin and didn't need blood. She couldn't fight or run away, so she grabbed them all with one hand. Later on, he simply sat down and used his spiritual power to search for prey before interfering, allowing them to collide and die on their own. Speaking of which, the reward is proportional to the effort. Yeshi caught it easily, but the role of the demon in checking the return is also easy. Both of them don't want to waste time in this small place without high-level monsters. Wu Gui sniffled and said in a muffled voice, but I don't know where it is. It's not easy for you to go either. Yi Shi looked at the sky with a relaxed smile and said, well, don't worry, I'll gather intelligence. Ah. Yeshi changed the topic and said, however, is it really normal for you to behave like this? Even when a divine dragon hatches, it looks like a scaleless snake. Wu Gui's body kept saying, no, our divine dragon is the most powerful. This way, firstly, I save energy, and secondly, my intuition is that this appearance is the only way to be safe. Safe. Yes, I am a divine dragon that only exists in the divine realm. If someone sees my true form, wouldn't it be bad? Let me tell you, those human races are the most greedy, and the demon race is also greedy. The demon race is also greedy. Oh, anyway, I am just a young child and my strength is not strong enough. They will come and harm me. Are you saying that you are very useful to them? Of course, I am a divine dragon, Wu Gui proudly said. If you don't say anything else, just swallow me in one gulp, and that will increase my cultivation by how much in vain? You wouldn't think of that, would you? Yi Shi sneered, you're really useless to me. Wu Gui felt uncomfortable again and said, how did you know? Yi Shi smiled and said, do you want to force me to take a bite before you're satisfied? Wu Gui proudly said, you can't hurt me. With the sealed thing in their eyes, the two only look at each other affectionately. Otherwise, is he a fool who dares to say anything? Night Creek pondered, so, I can't let anyone discover you. Yeah, but no one should notice me like this. Yi Shi looked around and shook his head, saying, can it change into something else? I think you're a little short of it. Ah. Wu Gui twisted around and looked, it's about the same. It's similar, it's all long. Are you saying, make me square or round? Night Creek thought to himself and said, transform into a flower, the plant is even further from your true self. Wu Gui's body slipped and almost fell to the ground. Flower, no way. I'll give it a try. Wu Gui pondered in pain, wondering how to turn into a flower. Yi Shi had already stood up, pressed his small head on his shoulder, and Wugui consciously slipped into his arm. As she walked towards the edge of the forest, she couldn't help but ask, "Are we going now? We won't catch two more. Although it's small, it's better than nothing. You should drink more blood, and we'll hurry on." Yeshi didn't want to hide anything in front of Wugui, and Wugui didn't show any abnormality in Yeshi's bloodthirsty habits, only couldn't figure out what kind of race Yeshi was. Yeshi sighed in her heart, she had not been drinking blood for many years. If it weren't for Wugui's diet on the demon core, she would only use it. She tried, she could absorb the energy inside the demon core, but the level was too low and only slightly better than nothing. "I'll go find someone to inquire and see where there are high-level monsters. I think the monsters and mutated beasts here are just different in appearance. They can both launch supernatural attacks, and the difference between the demon core and the crystal core should not be significant." Wugui's head popped out of the collar and moved towards his shoulder. The collar, which had been squeezed by him, was not tidied up by Yeshi. You go and inquire. I can tell you what others say, but when you speak, they really don't understand. Do you want me to come out and talk to people?" "Oh, no, if I come out, I will naturally change to look like a high-level monster. If you make me become a flower, wouldn't it be more attractive to people?" "No need for you, I have a way." "What method?" "What method?" Speaking, he has already left the forest. The night creek looked up at the sky, and with a burst of spiritual power, it sensed that someone was walking by with a flying sword, and couldn't help but feel happy. These cultivators fly fast, but they are not as high as airplanes. Sometimes, they are only about 10 meters above the ground, which is enough. As Yeshi estimated time in his heart, he said to Wugui, "I will bring down a cultivator and use his spiritual power to enter his mind. Naturally, I can know what he knows." "Oh, that's what you call divine consciousness, here it is." As he was speaking, a cultivator was about to pass over his head. The person was not flying high or fast, and the spiritual power of Yeshi shrunk into a needle, about to stab him in the head. "No way." Wugui suddenly crawled out and slammed his chin on her head, shouting, "No, no, no." Yeshi was startled by his sudden action, his mental strength tilted, and the person flew over from his head. Angry, he pulled down Wugui and stared, "What are you doing?" Wugui glared at her and said, "I'm doing it for you." "Let's hear it. Are you going to search for souls?" Yeshi nodded and used his spiritual power to enter the minds of others, forcing them to read their memories and secrets. In the apocalypse, this move is indeed called soul searching. After soul searching, that person becomes useless, right? Yeshi nodded, talking nonsense, forcibly reading memories, inevitably harming the fragile brain. It's not normal for people to become useless. A cultivator who is useless is like being killed. Yeshi nodded and said, "So what? Don't tell me, you little thing is still soft-hearted. If you harm someone for no reason, it will lead to causality. And then what? Carrying human life. And then what? Produce a mind demon. And then what? We can't survive the calamity." The more Yeshi listened, the less he understood. He asked, "What you mean is that I cannot kill anyone, otherwise it will not benefit me?" "Yes, not only is it not beneficial, but it also has significant drawbacks." The small appearance of Wugui nodding her head seriously made Yeshi's teeth ache. Yes, she seemed to have never told Wugui that she made a living by eating people, and those who died directly in her hands were few and far between. "It won't be like what you said. I don't have any inner demons when I kill." Yeshi didn't know how to explain it. The little one was doing it for her, but couldn't get angry at him. With a flash of spiritual light, he asked, "Didn't you say that the heavens here couldn't find me? So how could there be a heavenly calamity? No return, no return." "Yes, even the heavenly Tao cannot detect this anomaly, and even the heavenly Tao cannot detect itself as long as it is by the side of the night creek. What if the Night Creek murder leads to the heavenly calamity? I don't even know where to chop. For a moment, envious and sour, this person had such a good fortune that thunder couldn't even strike her. Yishi smiled and said, "This time, don't stop me. Another cultivator has arrived." Wugoe always felt something was wrong. Before he could figure out whether to stop or why, the cultivator who was supposed to fly by stopped. Stopped in mid-air. Yishi looked up at the sky and, with the ease of tidying up his clothes, pushed Wugoe back. Wugoe swam under the skin of the Night Creek to the bottom of his neck and secretly looked out. That person actually flew down, collected his flying sword, and walked over step by step. This is a man in his 30s, dressed in a blue robe, with a decent appearance and a dignified demeanor. However, his two eyes, flowing back and forth on Yeshi's face, were clearly malicious. End of this chapter. 10, Chapter 10. Small dishes delivered to your door. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Small dishes delivered to the door. Who is the little girl from? The man pretended to be worried about her, but little did he know that Yeshi had already seen through his thoughts at a glance. That disgusting gaze had turned her into a zombie, and no one had ever used it against her again. However, before she turned into a zombie, she was also a fiery beauty. Yeshi remained silent and didn't instinctively look in any direction. In the man's heart, it seems that no one is following this little girl. Although curious about how an ordinary girl could appear in the realm of cultivation, the man couldn't help but lick the corner of his mouth when he looked at his watery and tender face. Yishi sneered inwardly, "Look, no matter which system, men are all virtuous. It's very dangerous here, there are many monsters. As a mortal, I can't stay here alone. Why don't I follow my brother?" After only a few words, my younger sister and brother called me in. The night stream is silent. The man's gaze flickered and he took a few steps closer to her. "Little sister, let's go with brother." Yeshi looked up at him, unable to speak. The black and bright big eyes blinked and blinked, more moving than the call of a oriole. "The man is a bit hot." My younger sister followed my older brother, eating and drinking spicy food without worrying. Yeshi's head tilted, as if asking what to do with him. "Hee, brother is missing a warm bed. Sister is taking good care of you. Brother will buy you a longevity pill. How about staying together for a long time?" Yeshi's gaze sharpened, seeking death. Just now, she didn't move because she couldn't handle it accurately and used a few tenths of her mental power to be better. As a zombie king in the spiritual realm, her usual trick was to manipulate others' brains to self-destruct. If someone gets angry and the person in front of them has their brain blown out, it's not easy to search for souls. So, as the man spoke, she scanned and probed him with her mental energy, from nothing to something, from small to large, and even condensed into a colorless dagger, flying around the man twice without him noticing. Night Creek has a spectrum, weak chicken with a hook at the corner of its mouth. The man saw her smile and thought he had hooked up with her. "Sister." "Ah." He knelt down with a loud thud, clutching his head in his hands and howling uncontrollably. The intense pain in his mind made him unable to open his eyes. What's going on? Yishi is not a procrastinator. He took a step forward and placed one hand on top of his head. His spiritual energy penetrated along his arm, and his mind flashed through scenes of time, spanning 60 or 70 years. Night Creek withdrew his hand, and the man fell to the ground, foaming at his mouth and turning his eyes white. Given his recent offense, Yeshi didn't show any mercy and crudely searched his soul. Now he has become a fool. "All right, I got it." Yeshi clapped his hands. Wugoe crawled out and exclaimed in surprise, "Did you learn so quickly?" That's right, the phrase, Night Creek, is spoken in the language of this cultivation world. Back then, sister was also a top student, but it was just copying and pasting. What was the difficulty? Wugoe shook his little head and said, "What do you know now?" "I know this is the cultivation world. How to divide the strength of the people here, what sects are there, the distribution of power, and the cultivation of supernatural. Spiritual roots and spiritual energy are all common knowledge. Currently, the most useful thing is that there is a sect that happens to recruit disciples. Let's go and take a look. Is it far or not? Not far, let's fly away to avoid people and arrive on the day they set. Let's go then. Wu Goe was very anxious. Don't worry, take care of him first. After Yeshi finished speaking, he flipped through the entire body of the man who could only hum. According to the classification here, this person was a casual cultivator, with no sect or family or friends, and had done a lot of evil. A few days ago, he forcefully broke through to the foundation and came out with waves, only to encounter Yeshi. Seeing her beauty, she had evil intentions. Digging out everything that could be used, Yeshi thought about how this person built the foundation. He felt wicked and stomped fiercely between the man's legs. Even a fool couldn't bear the pain, and the man screamed incessantly, his eyes bursting out. Seeing her toes still grinding, as a male, Wu Gyi trembled, he had to go cover them. Well, he didn't change his hands and feet, so naturally he didn't show anything outside. What are you doing? Night Creek said coldly, this is an evil cultivator, built by women who have undergone several refining periods, scumbag. As soon as I searched for my soul, I used the term, slip here, truly deserving of being a top student. He's definitely dead. Let's go quickly, in case it causes trouble. Night Creek, however, was not in a hurry. It wrapped around the end of the man's head and clenched its small fist, knocking its head open with a loud bang. Wu Goe was startled and said, what are you doing? Yeshi picked up a branch and broke it casually. He rummaged through Bai Bai's brain for a while and said, there is indeed no crystal nucleus. He is not a superpower. Wu Goeyun said, he is a human race, how could he have a demon core? Only demons have a demon core. Oh, even demons have a demon core. Only humans don't. What does that person have? Dantian. Yeshi is going to explore the man's Dantian again. Wu Goe said helplessly, everyone has died, and the elixir fields have also scattered. He is just a newbie building a foundation. How big can the elixir fields be? Sure enough, the location of Dantian was almost empty, and Yeshi regretfully took it back. Pulling the man's arm, he threw him into the forest and said happily, he's dead. The storage ring and storage bag can all be used now. Let's see if there's anything good and if there's anything that can make us fly. Wu Goe rolled his eyes and didn't immediately strike her. A small pile of clothes, weapons, broken books and jade slips, scattered spirit stones, small jade boxes, and miscellaneous items and women's items were poured out with a loud bang. It is unclear whether they were used to deceive people or left by the female cultivator who collected and repaired them. Yeshi held the man's flying long sword speechless, and all her possessions were the most valuable and useful. Unfortunately, she couldn't use it. That's right, I can't use it because flying on a sword requires practicing chi in the later stage. I need to use spiritual energy. She has tremendous spiritual power, but she doesn't even have the ability to refine chi. To cultivate immortality, one must cultivate immortality. Once cultivated, one can fly. Fortunately, the storage ring and storage bag can also be used with spiritual power, and the Night Creek can stuff things back, which means there is no return path. There's nothing we can use, we'll sell it to the local market and buy you a demon core. Wu Goe was immediately moved. This was the first wealth that Yeshi earned when she came to this world. She didn't use any of it herself, she used it all for herself. You're so kind to me. Whatever you say you want, I'll go get it for you too. Yeshi smiled and said, what I want, you can't give it. Wu Goe doesn't believe it. You said, I can't give it now, I'll give it to you when I grow up in the future. Yeshi said, I need to find someone. The person who came with you from your original small world, asked Wu Gui curiously. He asked about the origin of Yeshi, and Yeshi only said that she came from another small world, where heaven and earth were in turmoil, and somehow she came here. Wu Gui knows that there are occasional weak loopholes in the space barriers between different worlds, so he is not curious. He was curious about what the original world of Yeshi looked like and asked, but Yeshi didn't talk much. Yes. Did you come together? That's not true. She fell into a black crack, and I only entered another one afterwards. Oh my, Wu Gui couldn't help but shout, then the possibility of you finding her is too small. Is that right? Yeshi paused for a moment. Yes, you haven't entered the same spatial channel. Even if you enter the same channel, you may not be able to enter the same small world when you come out front and back. Really? Wu Gui nodded and said, our clan is the most proficient in the laws of time and space, and I naturally know it clearly. After staying for a while, Yeshi asked, do you have a way to help me find her? Wu Gui shook his head and his little eyes became confused again. When you talk, I instinctively find it difficult. But if you ask deeper, I can't remember anything anymore. So, is your bloodline inheritance reliable or not? Don't worry, when I grow up, I will definitely have a way to help you. Hee hee. As a monster that only hatched from an egg for 100,000 years, wait for you to grow up. I might as well wait for the sky to fall. Wu Gui saw what she was thinking and angrily shouted, then when I go home, I'll ask my parents to help you. They must have a way. Yeshi is even more cheerful. To put it bluntly, when the time comes, people will say, oh no, whether it's the god dragon parents still around or not. Thank you first, let's go. Suspected of being an orphan, we can't stimulate him. End of this chapter.